Hi, I'm Michael Santos with michaelsantos.com and prisonprofessor.com, and I hope that if you are listening to this program, if you are enjoying this episode of Success After Prison, how I built assets worth $1 million within 2 years of release from 26 years inside, and more importantly, how you can succeed too, then I hope that you will do me the favor of supporting the program by either subscribing to this podcast. So if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're visiting on michaelsantos.com or prisonprofessor.com, I hope that you will subscribe to my mailing list so that I can give you your own free digital version of this book that I am reading in about 20-minute segments. I've already recorded 3 episodes. I'm now on the 4th episode. I'm going to be getting into it. But if you're in prison or in struggle, this episode and this book is specifically for you. It's my job to try and show you that the decisions you are making right now can have an enormous influence on your prospects for a successful journey through prison, and more importantly, a successful return to society. Even if you've got a life sentence, the reality is you can start sowing seeds right now that will change the outcome of your life, that will get more people to believe in you, that will help you emerge successfully. And that's what this entire program that I create, that's what it's all about, is showing that it's never too early and it's never too late to begin sowing seeds for the best possible outcome. Don't wait for somebody else to do it, because you'll have a long wait. But if you start thinking in a deliberate manner, if you start thinking about what I can do, you absolutely can change the outcome of your life. Well, how do I know? Because I was in prison for 26 consecutive years, 9,500 days, but every single one of those days I had a high level of energy, a high level of passion, a high level of discipline, and it made all the difference in my life. That's what I'm sharing with you through this book. I'm going to get right into now episode number 4. Just a moment, I just wanted to say one other thing. If you want a digital copy of this book again, please visit michaelsantos.com or prisonprofessor.com. Just join my newsletter list and I'll send you a free digital copy, because that doesn't cost me anything to produce. But if you do want a softcover book, simply order a copy. I'll send it to whoever you have in your life that doesn't have access to the internet or doesn't have access to iTunes and my podcasts. I'm very happy to share this message, because it's my hope and my dream and my passion to help more people overcome the challenges that they're facing right now and prepare for success. As I've said, between all the other episodes, you're going to see me kind of reading, because I am actually reading a manuscript right now. Sometimes I'm looking at this screen right in front of me. Sometimes I'm looking at the screen over here where I have audio. You see, I'm a one-man operation, don't have a big crew, totally transparent, totally authentic, just totally driven to help people succeed regardless of what they're going through. And the lessons that I'm teaching here apply to anybody regardless of what you're going through. So in the last episode, I closed out by talking about how I broke into publishing. And my research showed me that the first step I would have to take would be to write a book proposal, then write some sample chapters, then begin writing a cover letter and sending those addresses out to with stamped envelopes to literary agents. Now, my research showed that if I could persuade a literary agent to represent me, the literary agent then would connect with publishing houses. And if editors who worked at the publishing houses liked my book, the editors would issue a contract to bring my book to market. Wouldn't be easy, but what is? I mean, come on, what is easy? I can tell you what's easy. Just sitting around and waiting for the world to change. That's easy, but it doesn't lead to much. If you want to change, you got to pursue it. You got to take a deliberate path. That's what I was doing by writing these, by researching how to write a book, because I wanted to do what? I wanted to transcend the prison walls, and I wanted to connect with people in society. And, the reality was that when I started doing this, I'd already had half of my prison sentence behind me. I had 13 years in prison behind me, 13 years ahead of me. And all that time in prison, it had conditioned me to deal with rejection. So writing a book proposal, didn't really frighten me of how difficult or anything it was going to be. In any event, I just want to say that this book proposal itself required about 30 pages of writing. And sample chapters added another 30 pages. Postage and copy costs would be too high if I were to send the entire package to scores of publishers. I needed a more economical way to reach out. And I was, always thinking, you got to deal with the world as it exists, not as you want it to be. I was in prison. I didn't have access to technology. I didn't have core links because it didn't exist when I was doing this type of work, or at least not in the prisons where I was held. All I had was what? A ballpoint pen, pieces of paper, and an iron will with a determination to succeed. So instead, because I didn't have the resources to be, sending out documents with 100 pages, I didn't have a copy machine. I didn't have the resources to buy all that postage. So instead of sending the full book proposal package, I leveraged off of my earlier work, as I described in my previous episodes here. First, I identified 100 literary agents. Then I wrote a query letter that described my background, my educational credentials, my publishing credentials, because remember, I'd already written 2 books with academic publishers, and a few sentences about the type of book that I wanted to write. Now, then I sent that 1-page letter along with a self-addressed stamped envelope to the literary agents that I had identified as being perhaps the most receptive to an idea from me. Now, with postage costs and copying, I'd say the total cash outlay was less than $2 an envelope, or altogether about $200. So, was the investment in my future worth $200? Well, I'll ask you to judge for yourself. But from my perspective, that type of investment made sense. It had an enormous return on investment. In fact, that mailing, by sending out those proposals and doing the work beforehand that would allow me to send out the proposals, it resulted in my securing a relationship with a literary agent. I sent him the full proposal. Within 2 weeks, he secured a publishing contract for me with St. Martin's Press. And the contract came with compensation that brought more than 1,000 times the initial investment I made in postage. Made $200, invested $200 in postage. That work resulted in more than $200,000 in revenues coming to me. And more importantly, libraries and bookstores across the country carried my book, Inside Life Behind Bars in America. So it really changed my life. I mean, St. Martin's Press published Inside in 2006. And the investment of time and energy continues to bear fruit and pay dividends. Many opportunities opened through books I wrote. The books persuaded people to believe that I didn't just talk about wanting to live a life of meaning, relevance, and contribution. Those people had tangible proof. They had a book to hold in their hand. They wanted to invest in me, to help me, to believe in me. And if you want to read more, just read this book, Earning Freedom. It tells the whole story of how it all happened. I can't do it all here. I'm going to tell you about my success after prison in this book. But the important takeaway here is that you too can begin creating credentials that will lead to your success. Again, it's never too late and it's never too early to begin preparing for a life of success. Remember, I wrote that my adjustment plan had 3 components. And those components, where did they come from? They came from my avatars. That wasn't what I wanted to do. It's what my avatars would want me to do. They would expect me to educate myself. So I had to focus on getting university degrees. They would expect me to contribute to society. And my, when I was in there, I'm not saying it's the same for everybody. For me, contributing to society, I could do that by publishing. And they would expect me to build a support network. So you see, it was sowing those seeds that made the difference. That's what I want you to see, how those components, they all worked together in harmony. By educating myself, I could create more opportunities to contribute to society. And by contributing to society, more people became aware of my work. And when more people became aware of my work, the more people came into my life and offered support. You see, that cycle of success, it was awesome and empowering, and it feeds on itself. That's what got me through prison. That's what can get you through whatever challenge you're going through. If you're in a penitentiary, maybe the first step is to earn your way out of the penitentiary into a medium security prison. If you're in a medium security prison, get to a low security prison. If you're in a low security prison, get to a federal prison camp. If you're eligible for the residential drug abuse program, Get involved in that. Participate. Do well so that you can get some benefit of kicking your substance abuse habit. If you're in an anger management group, if you are in the challenge program that exists like at United States Penitentiary in Atwater or in other penitentiaries, seize the moment. Read, learn, develop your vocabulary, build your support network. All of these lessons, all of these efforts may not seem like they make a bit of difference in your life right now because you don't sense it. But don't focus on getting a lower bunk or don't focus on an extra bowl of Wheaties. No, focus on the strength that you are developing from within. Focus on how these seeds that you are sowing are empowering you for success, not only in prison, but success in society. That's what I want you to learn. That's what this Earning Freedom program is all about. That's what everything I do is about, and it's what I really wanted to share with you. So that's what you'll read about in the Success book if you get this book in the mail, but I'm going to continue reading for it. If you're not a reader, if you just want to listen, if you just want to watch, just let me just share with you the rest of the story. And if you want it again, just send me an email and I'll send you a free digital copy as long as you've got real email. I can't do it to this, the CoreLink systems in prisons. But let me tell you how that works and how that disciplined, deliberate strategy. Remember what I said before, visualize, plan, execute. Everything that happened in my life was because I was inspired by masterminds who taught me that concept of visualize, plan, execute. And because I set that path in motion, a lot of great things opened for me, including as a consequence of that strategy, I met Carol. Carol, we married. I married a woman in 2003 inside of a prison visiting room. At the time, I was locked in a low-security prison in Fort Dix, New Jersey, and we married inside of that visiting room. Carol became my liaison to the world. I'd write by hand and send my manuscripts to her. She'd interact with publishers or work to bring my projects to life. She'd type them. If I hadn't sown seeds, though, early in my journey, Carol never would have come into my life. If I had been just a total, mess up in prison, she would have never come to me. You can read about it again in Earning Freedom. But the point I am making is that every choice that we make inside when we're in struggle has a relationship to whether we're going to break out of struggle. And I want you to break out of struggle. But together, because I found Carol, because I persuaded her to believe in me, because I'd gotten my education, because I'd been publishing, because I had a support network, it made it easier for her to believe in me. And then together we created kind of a quasi-business, even while I was incarcerated. My writing, it generated revenues that supported Carol. We paid taxes while I was in prison. And as a consequence of the revenues generated from my writing projects, Carol could return to school and earn a nursing degree. All of our efforts were part of a strategic, deliberate plan. A plan that would allow Carol to live a sustainable life while I prepared for a meaningful career upon release. Now, in addition to writing books under my own name, I began writing books for other people. Every effort I made began with a single question. Remember that the Socratic questioning method makes all the difference in the world. And that question was, would this decision advance prospects for success upon release? That was the essence of my success, of my journey, is begin with that question. Would this decision advance prospects for success upon my release? And I got news for you, as you'll hear about a little later in these episodes, when I get into my life after prison, you will see how I continue to ask those types of questions. I just don't have to ask about upon release. I ask about success. I ask about making $1 million and then making $5 million and then making $10 million. That's what I ask about now. And I can tell you, it's that strategy of Socratic questioning. It's what moves the needle in our life, regardless of what you want to overcome. Whether you want to lose weight, whether you want to, get stronger, whether you want to overcome challenges in your life, whether it's bankruptcy or it's divorce or it's obesity or whatever the situation is, there's a strategy to break through. And that strategy requires asking the right questions. That's what we learned from Socrates. That's what I learned from Socrates and many other masterminds, as I'll talk about a little bit later. But let me continue reading. So that strategy, it empowered me through the journey. It dictated the books that I read while I was incarcerated. It dictated the people with whom I associated. It dictated the jobs I tried to secure within the prison. It dictated efforts I made to be assigned to the right bunk. Now, in Earning Freedom, I get much more elaborate on that. But what I want you to know is every decision you make, it comes with an opportunity cost and the possible threat to your success. So you got to continue asking the question, is this going to advance me? Is this going to set me off course? Am I totally committed to success? So in later chapters, you'll see how that strategy led to my income opportunities upon release. It dictated efforts I made to be assigned everything. And in later chapters, you'll see how that strategy, I just reread that twice, forgive me. And you'll see how those income opportunities that I earned, how they allowed me to build an asset portfolio that would contribute to my financial security. Within 28 months of my release from prison, I write more than $1 million, but it's like $1.1 million worth of assets. And I had equity of more than $500,000. Now, I'd like others to experience even more success. They can do it by learning to ask the right questions. It got me through the journey. I really would love to share it. In fact, maybe later I'll do an audio podcast on Earning Freedom. But right now, I just want you to say, that was the secret. That is the secret that Socrates taught me. And it's not only Socrates. You learn this from Jesus. You learn this from Gandhi. You learn this from Muhammad. You learn this from Buddha. You learn this from Steve Jobs, from Bill Gates, from Michael Jordan, from President Obama, from every single leader. They know how to ask questions. And it's my hope that you'll start asking questions about what is it going to take to get you out of where you are right now and advance you into a life of prosperity and meaning and relevance. I want you to read and think with purpose. By asking Socratic questions throughout the journey, I could focus on the end result. I wanted to emerge successfully more than anything. So every decision had to relate to success. And when reading a book, for example, I'd read with a purpose. When I finished reading the book, I'd write a report in accordance with the following format. I'd write, what date did I read this book? I'd write, why did I choose to read this book? I'd write, what did I learn from reading this book? And then I wrote, how will having read this book contribute to my prospects for success upon release? That was the strategy for reading it for me that really made a big difference. Why? Because I only read books that had a direct relationship to the success that I wanted to become. I'm not saying that it's bad to read Louis L'Amour if that's what you want to read. Maybe you want to become a cowboy and you need to learn everything about being a cowboy. I'm not saying it's bad to read, fiction with Stephen King. Maybe you want to become a writer of fiction, and so you need to read about that type of work. But for me, I had to read books that would position me for success as I define success. And for me, I always had a vision of coming back to society, putting on a suit and tie, and have nobody know that I served a day in prison unless that I told them. But I knew that I'd always be telling them, because I really envisioned my job was to show people who are living in struggle that you can overcome, that you can become something more. And I'm especially, I feel a special bond, of course, for people who are in jail or in prison, because those are my brothers. If you're in jail or prison, you're my brother. I empathize with you, and I want you to come back strong. I want you to come back with your dignity intact, ready to succeed. And when I say succeed, I don't mean simply, getting a minimum wage job and struggling. I mean crushing it. That's what I want for you, to come back and to crush it. And that, if you follow this Earning Freedom Mastermind course, if you adhere to the principles that I'm going to be revealing through the rest of this book and the next episode, then I know that you can overcome the challenges that you're facing right now, even if it's a life sentence. I can assure you, even if it's a life sentence, you can overcome. In fact, we just had, as I said before, almost 100 people get their sentences commuted by the president. Why? Not because just on that given day the president wanted to let them out. No. It was because those men made decisions much earlier in the journey, and those decisions had an enormous influence on their prospects for success. So in the Earning Freedom Program, in the podcasts that I send in, and everything that I am doing, I'm trying to share that hope to you, that you change, that you seize the moment, that you seize every moment, every opportunity. You think about everybody you associate with, and you recognize the importance and the relevance it will have on your prospects for success upon release. I am Michael Santos with michaelsantos.com and prisonprofessor.com, and I offer these podcasts and these episodes and these webinars for free to anybody who has access to the internet. And if you need to get them inside, just visit my website at michaelsantos.com, sign up for the newsletter. You'll get a digital copy for free. If you want specialized stuff, we've got that also. But really, these messages are for my brothers in prison who I want to emerge successfully as law-abiding, contributing citizens. If that's for you, stick with the program. I'll be back with the next episode. If you need to order the book, you can order it from michaelsantos.com. Thank you so much. Miss you. Bye.